right. I'm not gonna do my song today.
No song for you.
No song.
Tell
This
the
is-
fans why.
This is the No Song Podcast.
That's what we're gonna rename it to.
Yeah, No Song Podcast. Yeah. So, I suppose we'll just start off, talking, explaining. Oh my goodness, my microphone. It's all messed up for some reason. Okay. So, I am sick today. I've been sick a little bit. I don't know I don't know. I tested negative for COVID, so but you never know. Maybe I still have it. But that's why I'm not starting off with a song. More than likely, you probably forgot that was actually a thing that we did at the beginning of these podcasts.
No, they're all devastated.
Yeah. You either forgot or you just found us and don't know what I'm talking about.
Or you just reminded them.
Yeah.
And then you made them sad.
Yeah. And I just reminded them that we've been really lazy and haven't made a podcast in almost a year.
Yeah, the last one was like February. What did I say earlier?
I can't remember. It was what were we even talking about?
We were talking about WandaVision 1 through 6.
Yeah,
It's February 16th, 2021. Our last episode.
Yeah,
and it's January 9th.
Yeah.
2022 now.
So
Well, there was some things, your sister stays with us for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they use this room for
That is
their
true.
stuff.
That is
And
true,
it's hard to switch between this and y'all's Two Awesome Men set.
Yeah,
So
that is true.
Look at Brittany over there trying to justify her laziness.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, there are reasons. It's not just our laziness.
it was laziness, but then there was an actual reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have our reasons, and then also we have our not reasons. I guess so. But I do want to start this off. I guess I do want to start this off a little bit by saying, well, I always forget. We forgot about this. We always started off like this. Just so you know, if you,
What are you saying?
What is going on?
all over the place. But like I always say, if you like what you have, if you like what you have to hear but hate what you have to see,
If you like what we have to say, but hey, what do you have to see?
if you like what we have to say but hate what you have to see, you can head on over to all the other podcast places. What are they? Apple Podcasts, Google Play,
And
Spotify. We're on all three of them. That's how big we are. Yeah.
They probably
sure there's
forgot about
more.
us. They probably delisted us by now.
We'll see what happens. We'll see tomorrow what's going on. But yeah, we're on all three of those. If you ever want to check us out, if you just want to listen to us and stuff, listen to our soothing, sexy voices, especially mine, today. But yeah, so we'll start off a little bit. I don't have a lot to say about this, but I just want to say it. Right before we filmed this, we found out that Bob Saget died.
Yeah,
very
today.
sad news.
Yeah, I don't think they've released how he was just found dead in his hotel room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which
But
is crazy.
they did say it was not drug related. So
Yeah,
it's still a mystery,
might have
but
had a heart attack or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I was reading somewhere where he tweeted just last night about some comedy show.
Yeah, because
he
he's
was in
doing
or
a comedy tour right now.
Oh yeah.
And so he's in Florida because that's where the hotel was in Florida. And he had just tweeted out and he was like, check out my other tour dates. So
Yeah, so it's sad to hear about that. Also, even though it's been a little bit, we can't talk about that, get past that without talking about Betty White.
Yeah,
Saying how sad that was, how crazy that was that she died just a few weeks before her 100th birthday.
Yeah.
Which I actually watched this thing and I didn't do the math on it, so I don't know how accurate it is, but it's saying that if you don't take leap year into account, which she said is a fake holiday or a fake thing anyways, that she actually did reach her 100th birthday. So
right. That's true.
We'll recognize it as that.
Yeah.
She actually did reach her 100th.
Yeah, it is just crazy that she died on the very last day of 2021.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And like you said, I think her birthday's January 17th.
Yeah.
She was going to turn 100.
I just want to say that I'm going to live my life where if I die at 99, people say it's still too soon. So
Exactly. So I guess we'll go ahead and jump into our other topics. I suppose even though it's been a little bit, we have to go ahead and we have to talk about Spider-Man a little bit. As much as hopefully it doesn't take up the whole runtime of this podcast. But if it does, it does.
Right.
If you are interested in watching, which it's a really long video, so we went really into detail. I don't know if we'll go into more detail. I don't know if we're going more into detail in here, but if you are interested, we'll and you go to YouTube, Two Awesome Men. We have our YouTube channel where you can go on there and watch our videos. We have one over Spider-Man No Way Home, and it's a really long video just explaining in detail.
It's like 45 minutes long, I think.
Yeah, it's like explaining in detail.
The first part is the no spoiler.
Yeah, but that was only like 5 minutes long.
Yeah. The no spoiler was really short, and then after that, we just went right into it, and it got really long because of that, just because we have a lot to say about it. So I guess we can just talk about it a little bit. Obviously, I'm not going to really worry about spoilers here, but that is kind of a warning.
Yeah, because I do know there's some countries that it hasn't been released to theaters, but you can just click off of it now if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, so we'll talk back later. Yeah, we'll talk about spoilers. And I'll say, oh my God, this movie was fantastic. We've seen it 3 times.
Yeah.
And because the first time I watched it, the first time all of us watched it, we liked it, and I was sure that it was good. That's one thing I was sure of. You know,
right.
I was sure that like my nerding out brain didn't blind me that much.
Yeah.
But I was just wanting to make sure it was as good as I thought it was. So the second and third time, especially the third time, I was able to actually sit down there and kind of like really look at it.
Right.
You know, because I already knew everything was going to happen.
Yeah.
And this movie is just really well written, just overall.
Yeah, for sure. Just going off what you were saying, like, because like the first time I was watching, like I was like in anticipation of, are these people going to show up? Is Charlie Cox going to show up? Is Tobey Maguire going to show up? Is Andrew Garfield going to show up? And then also just the excitement of seeing all these past villains show up, which we already knew were going to show up. But it was still cool to see the new stuff that weren't in the trailers with them. So like I was just like in anticipation of things that were going to happen. And then once they did happen, of course, I was just like in euphoria. So like I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Yeah. So we saw it again just to make sure before we filmed our review. Yeah. And like, it's a legitimately good movie.
Yeah. And like, honestly, one thing that was really great is because some people don't actually, when they watch this, if you didn't know about it, if there's a part whenever Matt Murdock, goodness, my brain right now. Charlie Cox. I'll say Chris Cox.
Okay.
Chris Cox. Chris Cox. Charlie Cox.
One day you'll get his name right. Who knows when?
Sounds like a cartoon character, a crocodile character.
Whenever Charlie Cox is in this movie, I thought it was really funny because unless you watch the series, they kind of pinned that on the idea that you watch the series. And honestly, I love that they threw that in there without just for those people who watch the series. Yeah. You know, and obviously I hope he comes in there later on. Yeah. But it's funny because whenever he came on there, people got excited.
Yeah. Thankfully our theater got like really they cheered and clapped for him.
People got excited, but a lot of times it was obvious also that you could tell that not everybody in there, especially whenever it got to like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming in. Oh yeah, which I guess those were obviously going to be much bigger cheers. Mm-hmm. But like it was just funny because that was like not everybody knows it because not everybody who watched the MCU watched the Daredevil series.
Yeah, it's just pretty funny. Probably like people who don't even know about the show are probably like, why are people clapping for this guy, this random guy?
Yeah. And then if you don't know anything about comic books at all, it probably really confused you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. If you don't know who Matt Murdock is at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like they did it perfectly. It didn't take up too much time in the movie, so it wasn't like Charlie Cox like overshadowed anybody. Yeah. But it was a nice like we're gonna bring him into the MCU. I mean he was in the MCU technically, but now it's he's going to be in some MCU stuff. Mm-hmm. Like this character's not done. And my only hope is that they also bring Foggy and Karen back. Yeah. Because I know that some people find them annoying. But I've never found only in the Defenders.
Yeah, the Defenders got a little bit annoying, but they're great supporting characters. Honestly,
yeah, because I thought a few like somebody was talking about like Matt Murdock being in it and how they need to bring back the whole cast, and people were like, I hope they don't bring Foggy and Karen back because they were so annoying. Yeah, and it was like, if you found them annoying, you didn't understand the show. The show was very grounded. Yeah, this is a story. If your best friend was out almost getting himself killed, would you willingly stand by that? Mm-hmm. Yes, he's doing good, but also you see the man. The rest of the world doesn't see the man behind the mask. You see the man. And so, of course, you're going to fight for your friend to stop doing this.
Yeah, and it's not just that. Not only is he like harming himself, he's putting the people he cares about in like harm's way as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, but you had up until the end of the season 2, I believe, you had Foggy knowing about him quite a bit.
Yeah.
But Karen didn't know about him until was it the end of season 2?
Yeah,
She found out?
the very end of season 2.
Yeah, so like obviously she's gonna be annoyed at him because like where is he? What's
Right.
he doing? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
You don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, especially when they have the biggest case of their career with the Punisher.
Yeah, exactly. Like what is he doing? Where is he at? You know, and so that's gonna be irritating. So I never found them irritating, like I said, other than Defenders, but Defenders as a whole was just not a
They
really
didn't
well-written
have
show.
good writers.
Yeah, it was very mediocre. I won't necessarily say it was bad. It was just very aggressively mediocre.
They didn't know how to write the villains. Side characters were basically blah.
Yeah.
And then you had Iron Fist, who was already an issue, the actor.
Yeah, and he was one of the biggest parts of the show.
Yeah,
of the Defenders,
and
him
every time he
Daredevil.
walked into a room,
Thankfully, well, I was just saying, thankfully, Daredevil was like also one of the biggest parts of the show too. It was
Yeah.
Iron Fist and Daredevil were the two biggest parts of the team.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the character had to announce he's Iron Fist anytime he walked into a room. And I felt like, come on, dude, we get it.
Yeah.
You're Iron Fist.
Yeah. But after season 3, and I will say season 3 was really cool because it kind of ended. It was like, okay, if it ends there, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like I would like for it to go on, especially because you have like Bullseye
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Which Bullseye itself was like a great character in
Right.
the show. And so
And even if like either if Disney decides to like do a soft reboot of the characters, or if they like do something that completely like is not on the same level at all as a Netflix show, at least the 3rd season ended like a series finale.
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
still see that as the ending of that show.
Yeah, exactly.
And these are just different characters. But I do hope they continue with that backstory because they delved really deep into those characters and did really well. And I hope it carries over to these new stuff that they're going to be in.
I also hope they keep most of the Netflix except for Iron Fist. They can recast him. But everybody else I felt like was really cast perfectly.
Yeah.
And so I hope somehow they're able to bring them back too. Because even though I wasn't a huge fan of Luke Cage, I did like the actor. He was a really good actor. I love John Bernthal as the Punisher. I love Kristen Ritter.
And honestly, if they do bring back Luke Cage, I honestly would probably sit through his 2 seasons just so I can get caught up.
Yeah.
I think with Luke Cage, and I've told this to a few people, he has the same issue I have with Superman.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Is that I just don't like. It was like there's one scene that was supposed to be like a really cool scene where he's like walking through the shootout, but he's just like walking and throwing people and stuff like that. And I was just kind of boring to me because he's just walking. You know, I don't know if you know what I mean. I just don't like characters that are really powerful. Unless there's something else to them, I just don't like characters that are like extremely powerful.
Especially with Luke Cage, because they try to make him grounded, which is fine. But when he's an overpowered superhero like that, it's kind of hard to ground him because what kind of villain can go against him?
Yeah, exactly.
Because in Superman, you have these bigger, like, people that are going after him that can actually challenge him.
Yeah.
But Luke Cage, you need somebody as powerful, but then you're trying to keep it grounded. So it's a hard mix.
Yeah, so I will. I mean, like I said, if he hasn't, then I will check it out, and it probably gets better. But it's just something I couldn't really get myself into. Honestly, out of all the shows, the only ones I could extremely get myself into was Daredevil and kind of Punisher.
Yeah.
Not as much as Daredevil, and then Jessica Jones is pretty good too.
Yeah, which you
I watched the first season.
you didn't watch the 2nd season of Punisher, which the first season of Punisher was really, really good. But then the 2nd season, me and Brittany watched it, and it
felt
was pretty
very
bad.
rushed. And we've probably talked about it, but it felt super rushed. They had two
It was
villains
really
that
messy,
didn't. Yeah, they had 2 villains that didn't connect.
Yeah.
And they had 2 storylines that never seemed to like ever blend together.
Yeah, which that's one thing. The 2 villains that don't connect. I don't think people will talk about them enough. But like Spider-Man 3, people always talk about like, oh, there's too many villains. That's why it was bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they had too many villains. It could still work. I mean, No Way Home had had 5 villains.
Yeah.
And it worked. But the Spider-Man 3 didn't work because there's too many storylines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a difference between too many villains and too many storylines.
And another good example of too many villains is not too many villains, but a lot of villains and still being a good movie is The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't as obvious. And if
Right.
like you're not like really into Batman, you probably didn't notice it. But there was a good like 3-4 villains in there.
Yeah, there's Joker, Two-Face, Scarecrow. What was the gangster's name?
One of the mob bosses.
Maroni.
Yeah, Maroni.
Yeah.
There was one other one too.
There was, well, I mean, he was like one scene that Victor Zsasz.
Yeah.
But he was just like one scene. I won't really count him. But he was in there.
Yeah. Well, that was Batman Begins. That was Batman Begins.
You sure?
Batman Begins.
I thought it was a scene with Harvey Dent.
It might have been
in the court.
It might have been. I can't remember for sure, but I know there's like 3 or 4 villains in Dark Knight, and sure, like they didn't focus on all of them. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna pull it off anyways. But the issue wasn't what pulled that off is the whole movie is aiming for one goal. Mm-hmm. When it came to like Spider-Man 3. The whole movie led to one ending. Yeah. But not all the people were having one goal.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like a focused movie.
Right.
You know, it was like, let's figure out how to get these villains done, and then we'll just throw them in the end. Right. You know, and they weren't on the same thing.
Yeah. With Spider-Man 3, I think you could make Sandman and James Franco's Green Goblin work. Mm-hmm. But when you threw in Venom, Venom had no motivation that these two had. Yeah. You know, Sandman and Green Goblin were obviously really, really connected. And they tried to throw in Venom, but we had just met Eddie Brock in that movie. He had not been in the first 2. And so we had to understand the hatred that Eddie Brock had for Peter Parker and then also develop Venom. It was just too much in a movie that could have had potentially good emotional moments between the Sandman and Green Goblin because you were forced to have Venom in your movie.
Now, and I will say that Spider-Man 3, I don't think could have been like a great movie regardless. And it wasn't and it had to do with a few things. None of them being like technically too many villains. Yeah. If Eddie Brock was in Spider-Man 2 and they somehow figured out a way to build him up. Yeah. In Spider-Man 2, which I think there was too much going on to do it. But if they figured out a way to build up Eddie Brock in the movies before, and then do that, it could have worked really well. Yeah. But you're introducing him in this movie, and then like taking up a vast majority of it, of building his character up, in like the last 30 minutes. Yeah. Right. Is like Venom, you know, and then not just that, but you have a whole bunch of other stuff to do. And that movie had a lot of different plot lines. Yeah. A ton of plot lines. It really did. And that's why that movie was so bad. That's not so I don't think that movie is trash. Yeah. People
overhate it.
I don't even like to say that movie is bad. Yeah. It definitely has things that I like to watch.
Yeah, because that's the thing about it is it had way too many storylines. But most of the storylines were written pretty well. Yeah,
honestly. Exactly. Other than like the Peter Parker dancing around. Yeah,
so. That's why I said most. Yeah.
But even the Peter Parker dancing around stuff, I think people try too hard to defend that scene. I don't want to defend it. I think don't think it should have been in there, but God, do I love watching it. Right, yeah. You know, I always see these like defenses. It's like, well, that's what Peter Parker thinks is cool. It's like, okay, well, it's still not a good scene. Like, exactly. If you take that scene, if you really think about that scene, him dancing around, there's no music playing. Yeah. You know? Right. Just dancing around exactly. So yeah, that I don't think there's really good defense for all that. But you know, I think we've kind of gone on a little bit of a tangent here.
But just to bring it back to the Punisher, they had 2 villains in season 2 of the Punisher. And they didn't connect like at all. And it's just like, oh no, there's a lot of problems. We should have done a review of it after we watched it because I can't remember all the issues I had with it, but it was just really, really bad.
Yeah, and then Jessica Jones, season 1 was amazing. Season 2, they kind of didn't know what to do, and I can't say much because you haven't seen it. Yeah. But it has to do with her mom and the villain and all that. They didn't know how to do that very well. The 3rd season does get a lot better.
Yeah, it still doesn't come close to the 1st season in my opinion, but it does get better than the 2nd season.
Yeah, so it was very like where Daredevil was great all 3 seasons.
Yeah, even the 2nd season, which people also overhate. I still think it's good. I mean, it does like
it dips down.
Yeah, it has kind of the same problem as the Punisher season 2. To where like it splits into 2 stories that don't really connect like at all. Yeah. But they're still both really pretty. Oh, I won't say because the hand part wasn't super great, but it was still a good show overall. And the Punisher stuff was still really interesting.
The first like 4 or 5 episodes was
fantastic. Yeah. The first 4 episodes really carries that whole season.
Yeah.
The first 4 episodes were probably some of my favorite parts of the show as a whole, all 3 seasons.
Yeah, and
I think they just made a huge mistake bringing the Hand in for anything.
Yeah. They had to bring them in to set up the defenders, but kind of threw stuff off.
I don't read the comics a lot, but I have watched a lot of videos of people who do, and the Hand is, even in the comics, they're boring.
Yeah.
So like to try to make him your villain is just. Yeah. It was a really bad choice. And then you got into all this like mystical stuff with like the black sky, and it just bogged down the show. This
the black
very
sky
grounded
stuff
show
didn't make any sense like at all. Especially because like, I mean, I don't know how much we going to go into spoilers with Daredevil, which we've already said some spoilers, but like Electro is not like a Captain Marvel type of character. She's not like super powerful or anything. So I don't know how like she would cause the end of the whole war. Just by being the black sky.
Yeah, it got
like
too strange.
Person.
They tried to, and like I said, in a show that was very grounded, very street level, it just got a little bit too out there.
Daredevil season 3 is honestly, it's one of the few things that I will literally say is perfect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we had like 4 or 5 more episodes.
Yeah, well, we had like 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, and we just finished it all in one night. We were like, we can't stop. Like every episode ended with like, oh my gosh, I have to know what and like it's very rare that a show does that for me. I can watch shows. I know that y'all don't watch TV shows as much as I do, but I do watch TV shows. But it's been a while since there's been a show where I have to watch the next episode. Like, I can't go to sleep without watching the next episode. Usually, I can watch an episode and like, oh, okay, and then wait maybe a day or 2 to watch the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, though, to get into season 3, you have to watch the Defenders, or you at least have to know what happened.
Yeah, just like watch a recap on YouTube.
Man, we honestly should change this podcast name to the Random Tangent Podcast. We went into like 2 or 3 tangents, and we were just talking about Spider-Man.
And we haven't even talked, like, we're just talking about the Marvel shows. We haven't even started talking about the Disney shows.
And I don't know, hopefully we'll get to there. We'll try. Let's just talk about No Way. I guess we'll go jump on back to No Way Home. Yeah, Daredevil was in there.
Yeah, one scene, and it caused us to go on to that tangent.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you remember that part. Daredevil was in No Way Home. And it was great. Look at that. He was in there for maybe like 3-4 minutes.
Anyway, the next... well, you had the villains, obviously, which we kind of brushed on that, which they did really well.
Especially the Green Goblin. They like somehow improved on how good he was in the first Sam Raimi movie.
It had to do with obviously taking the mask off. Because that, honestly, I read somewhere that was like one of the first things to decide to do was take the mask off, because even in the first Spider-Man, that was a lot of the criticism was the mask.
Right, yeah.
Because it's just so emotionless. You know? So it's just like, it's just blank, so it's not really anything like that.
Right.
But doing that, giving him a hood was really cool. But even before the hood part, he had the clothes on the whole time. But even before he put the actual hood on, when that scene, whenever Spider-Man's like punching him and he's just like laughing.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
It was like terrifying. Like they made him so good in that movie. It was honestly, it was like watching I wish I would have gotten to see that face more often, especially in Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. We wasted like 18 years or was it 19 years?
Yeah,
of not seeing him more.
Yeah,
as the Green Goblin.
His face, he's amazing in that face. But and then I do want to jump over. I mean, we can talk about the villains a little more and how well the villains were done. One thing I loved about the villains is how they didn't like take away from who they were. Yeah, Norman Osborn. He was still just Norman Osborn. It's just that he would switch off to the Goblin.
Yeah, like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, exactly.
And they kind of brushed on it in the first Spider-Man, but it wasn't, I don't think, as obvious. Even because we had rewatched the first Spider-Man before, and you could tell that's what was going on, but they didn't make like a big point of it. Yeah. And this time we got to see it, especially because in the first one, Norman Osborn was kind of a jerk. Let's be real. Because we saw a lot of the interactions between him and Harry. And so you didn't get to see that how different he was. And in this one, they did a really good job of grounding Norman into like an actual human being. But then the Green Goblin's what's making him evil.
Yeah. And it kind of makes sense why he's like that. Because and they kind of also showed it in the first one, but just very briefly. kind of since the craziness of the Goblin is kind of humbling the Norman Osborn part of him.
Oh yeah,
in a sense, you know.
right.
And so they did really well with his character, Doctor Octopus. Even though they grabbed him before he kind of made that realization, they made him good real quickly.
Yeah,
And so I liked that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't just have a rehash of his evil character. He was like a good guy in the movie.
yeah,
And he wasn't in that much. All the characters were, all the villains were pretty well done. The lizard still looked a little goofy.
yeah.
I think because of the shape of that guy's head.
Yeah, it's like they made his face too round and like
Yeah.
his snout like not long enough to like
Yeah.
an actual
Yeah.
like lizard.
Yeah, it's just like completely it's a round head.
But-
It's just gonna look silly.
But one I was surprised with Electro.
Yeah,
I don't like Amazing Spider-Man 2 at all.
yeah,
But Electro was
Yeah.
a big thing. I didn't like how Jamie Foxx portrayed him. I mean, it's not his fault, it's the writing's fault, but I didn't like his development. I didn't really like anything of it.
Yeah,
how he
see-
looked, anything.
Yeah, see, Amazing Spider-Man 2, I actually kind of like. I do think the first Amazing Spider-Man is a better movie, just in general. Yeah, but I do find enjoyment in the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
yeah. I can see. I think Amazing Spider-Man. They're both bad movies. Amazing Spider-Man is a better movie. It's just really boring.
Yeah.
And there's some stupid stuff in it. and then, I mean, it's not saying, I guess there's also a lot of stupid stuff in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a bad movie, but it's more entertaining than the first one.
Yeah.
It's like they couldn't balance out those two aspects.
Yeah.
It's like, do we want to be entertaining? Do we want to be good? Which one? You know, it's hard to choose, you know? But yeah, they did Electro's character a lot better. I do like how they didn't just, because in the trailer, they just showed him like, how to the end of the movie, and I was like, "How are they going to do that?" You know, and so I like that they changed it up real quick on them.
Oh yeah,
You know,
right.
and so that was pretty good. And then obviously we have to talk about Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield
yeah.
being in this movie. It was kind of perfect where they placed him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Honestly,
yeah. And I read somewhere that someone didn't like it because it was like stopping momentum of the story. But I think that's where it needed to stop.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
where the momentum needed to
yeah.
stop.
It had already slowed down because like Aunt May had just died. It was at a slower point.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like it was such a perfect time because it was a turning point for Tom Holland's Spider-Man because he had never really lost anybody. I mean, we can assume he lost Uncle Ben, but we don't know how
Yeah.
because we didn't get to see it. So this was a huge turning point from him, and he needed the other Spider-Man to know that this is how it is as Spider-Man, and we understand,
Yeah.
we get it.
Yeah, and also like know that like, you know, things like this happen, you have to keep going, but also that this death, you know, and just in general, it's like a pretty interesting lesson, you know, or a pretty interesting thing to take in of like people die, but you don't always have to make it just in for no reason. Yeah, but what I found like perfect about where they're placed is I think a lot of people, including myself and all of us really, is we were scared that, you know, they're either going to be put in the movie too like early and the movie wouldn't be like a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
right.
Or we thought that they were going to put him in too late and just be like, okay, here you go. You know, this is what you wanted. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. And it would still take away from the Tom Holland movie because it would be like them coming in to save the day.
Yeah,
Because Tom
exactly.
Holland couldn't do
Because
it.
I remember when the multiverse was kind of like, that was kind of going to be kind of like the main story plot, kind of. We kind of figured that. I remember you saying that you were really scared about Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield being in Tom Holland's.
You mean Tobey
Tobey Maguire, sorry. Tobey Maguire and Andrew
Man,
Garfield.
I was really worried about Tom Holland being a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
No, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, because at that point we'd only got 2 solo movies of Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so
And the first one, Tony Stark had a big hand on a lot of it. And then the second one was kind of him kind of growing out of the shadow of Tony
Yeah.
Stark. So I was
So-
scared that this third one wouldn't be really his movie.
yeah, especially because we also had Doctor Strange in it. So you had Doctor Strange, and we didn't know exactly how Doctor Strange was going to be. Is he going to be another like Tony Stark mentor type person? And then, you know, there was the worry if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield that they would show him up, but they didn't. They were just a nice addition to it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and also like, they were like legitimate characters, you know? Like they're the entire third act of the movie,
Right.
you know. And it didn't feel forced. I know a lot of people will bring up and it's kind of well founded, but I think it's believable enough. Is that Ned opened up the portals?
Oh yeah.
You know, there's a whole little thing about that. I don't know if we should go into it because I'll say real quick. Basically, I've read the fact like Doctor Strange. I don't think people understand that which goes into a lot of arguments. Honestly, Doctor Strange is a very arrogant person.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks he's always right. That's how he's always been.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he first tried to get into this, he was trying way too hard, and he didn't really technically fully believe in all of it. You know.
Yeah.
Ned, on the other hand, was all on board. You know, and he didn't really think about it. It was just what he wanted.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and he also had a really big pushing reason to do it. The only reason why Doctor Strange was doing it was because I guess he wanted to a little bit. He wanted to learn it. Like Ned,
he wanted to fix his hands so that he could be a doctor again.
Well, whenever he was forming the circle.
Oh.
Whenever he was forming I don't know what it's called.
Portal.
The portal. Whenever he was forming the portal, he was just doing it because it was part of the classes.
Yeah.
You know, and Ned's, on the other hand, he was doing it because he purely needed to do it.
Right.
And he didn't mean to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but he was purely wanting something.
Yeah.
You know, and so sure, maybe there's a little bit of like, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but I'm okay with it. I can deal with it, you know.
Especially because like he wasn't like doing like full spells and all that.
Yeah, and
it was like a portal that he couldn't even really do that well.
Yeah, and also there's a
mean,
portion where he couldn't even close it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he didn't even do it right technically because he was looking for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and so he found two other Peter Parkers. So it's not like he even did it right.
Yeah, and they at least threw in that line earlier in the movie that he said that his grandma or I don't know if it's his grandma or mom but they said that there's magic in the family.
Yeah. I also, which we haven't really talked about, I also like how they did Doctor Strange in this movie. Like I was saying, there was this worry, is he going to be like the new Spider-Man mentor?
Yeah.
But he treated him like Doctor Strange would. Like sarcastic. You know, there was one part, you know, when the spell messes up the first time and he's like, I forget that you're a kid. Because the whole time he was treating him like he wasn't a kid. Mm-hmm. But then he was like, you are just a kid. Right. But then he forgets that he is a kid, you know?
Okay.
And one last thing I was going to say on this subject is in the trailers, we also thought that it was kind of strange that Doctor Strange agreed to do this spell because it's supposedly dangerous. But I like how they explained that normally the spell's just used as whatever.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that Peter Parker being immature and Doctor Strange not explaining the spell that well.
Yeah.
That's what caused the whole mistakes and issues.
Yeah, which that's kind of what I was going to bring up. Just the fact that I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, Doctor Strange acted really out of character in this movie for doing this spell for somebody who just on like a whim. But like the thing is, like Spider-Man, which he even brings up in the scene that like they fought together to save half the entire universe. Like they were on Titan together, fighting Thanos together.
Yeah,
and then they fought together at the end of Endgame to excuse me, to bring everybody back. So it's not like some stranger coming to him asking for a favor.
Yeah,
and two, like you brought up, like he said he's done it before for a lot less because like Peter Parker's entire life was kind of ruined by that.
Yeah,
so he's done it for a lot less. And also, like Marquez was saying earlier, he's an arrogant person. So of course he's not going to expect anything to go wrong with a spell. Yeah. So he's gonna like do it because he doesn't expect anything to go wrong. So he thinks it's just gonna be really easy to do.
Yeah.
And lastly, also like she was saying, is it would have worked.
Yeah.
Like it was gonna work if it wasn't. But Peter jumped in and started saying stuff. It was not like trash his character for that.
Yeah.
This is what happens. And I think another thing that I hate is people like, well, why didn't Peter Parker just walk in there and ask him to do this? And it was a much more like complicated.
Like forget like Mysterio or something.
Yeah, but it's like at that point he is stressed.
Yeah,
he is a child.
Right,
everything's not going right.
And
and plus it would have worked like the way he was going.
Exactly.
Like it would have. There would be no problem.
Yeah, there was no reason for him to think otherwise. You know, and it just. There's a lot of things like that where it's like at that point it's no longer like plot holes. It's no longer like stupid. It's human. Like those are humans. Like they have powers.
Right.
But they're human.
Yeah. That's another thing that I just hate. That when people nitpick like that, like, oh, well, like they have like several weeks to think about a decision.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, why didn't they do this?
Yeah.
That means it's a bad movie. It's a plot hole.
Yeah.
It's like people can not think of stuff and
Yeah.
Especially
make
that
mistakes.
young. I mean,
Yeah.
think about stupid mistakes we did.
Right.
You know? And his friends just got denied into MIT, something that they had been holding out hope for.
Yeah.
And it was because he's Spider-Man. And so when Doctor Strange says, hey, we can, or when Peter Parker goes to Doctor Strange and says, hey, can you have everybody forget that I'm Spider-Man? He's not thinking that there's actually people he cares about that knows he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And this spell's going to erase everybody that knows he's Spider-Man.
Exactly.
He's not thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess, well, I mean, if there's anything else we could talk about Spider-Man.
Nothing I can think of.
Nothing I really think of about Spider-Man. Like I said, we do have a video on YouTube where we go really into detail on stuff. Obviously, it's been a little bit since I've seen it, so there's a lot of little things that I forgot about. Oh, yeah, I will say this. One other cool thing I learned, I heard earlier, is a really cool point. Is kind of how Andrew Garfield and Peter Parker, and how Andrew Garfield and Tom Maguire were introduced in the movie. It kind of showed who their characters are now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it really.
You want to...
Is that my phone?
Yes.
You always have your phone's volume all the way up.
Well, let me turn that down. I was like, what is that? Is that Brittany?
She's ruining the episode.
When I've never had my phone volume up.
But there was like a thing how like whenever Andrew Garfield comes into the screen, he's dressed up like Peter Parker. He's dressed
Eventually you'll get this whole sentence
dressed up
right.
like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Showing kind of like that's who he just sees himself as, because later on in the movie, like Peter Parker and oh my god, Tobey Maguire. Well, technically he's not wrong.
Yeah,
Peter Parker.
there you go.
There's a scene where
very
Peter
confusing.
Parker and Peter Parker are talking to each other. There's that scene where Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are talking to each other, and Andrew Garfield's like, I don't have time for Peter Parker stuff, only Spider-Man stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he comes into the screen in the Spider-Man suit, it kind of shows he's almost just become only Spider-Man now.
Yeah. Kind of like how in season 3 of Daredevil, he just becomes Daredevil. Yeah. He kind of gives up the Matt Murdock life.
Yeah, and he sees that as being the way to do it. Like, that's the only way you can do it. But Tobey Maguire pops in there dressed not in Spider-Man, not in the costume at all. You know, he just looks like this, like they said, some random guy, you know.
Yeah, some youth pastor.
Yeah. He just walks in there, showing that later on in the movie, he explains, like, with him and MJ, he's like, but, you know, things work out, you know.
Yeah.
So showing, and him walking in there, showing that he's found that balance between being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker.
Right.
You know, after a while, he's found that perfect balance of what he needs to do. And so I thought that was, like, I don't know if it was intentional.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have been.
Yeah.
I feel like it very well could have been intentional.
Right.
But if it wasn't, it was still just a really cool thing to notice.
Right.
You know? And I guess we have a little bit of time. We have like maybe like 20 minutes left. And so we can talk a little bit about like the Marvel shows.
Yeah. Which
the Disney Plus Marvel shows.
Yeah, which WandaVision we didn't get to talk about. We talked about the first 6 episodes, but there's still 3 more to go when our last episode aired. So we can talk about WandaVision really quick.
We can talk about it really quick. We do have for WandaVision and for
we have a review for all the Disney Plus shows except for What If and Hawkeye.
Hawkeye, yeah.
So we have reviews for all those on our Too Awesome Men channel.
Yeah, and WandaVision is kind of split up. I think we have like 2 or 3 videos. And well, so is
because
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Y'all did one on it was just the first 2 episodes, and y'all predicted what y'all think.
Yeah, well, we did a reaction to Jeremy John's reviews for the first 2 episodes, and we kind of predicted what. Excuse me, sorry. We kind of predicted what we thought was going to happen in the rest of the show.
Yeah, and we were right.
Yeah, we were.
I'm not trying to brag on you, but we're right. And then we have like the actual video. So we y'all can go and check those out. Maybe we'll put a link in the description below, but there's a lot of links that we keep talking about. I don't know if we can do all of them. But you can check them out on Too Awesome Men on YouTube.
We do have a Marvel MCU playlist, so you can just go there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we do have an MCU playlist. So WandaVision, we loved it a lot. There was like, it was almost like straight up. It had the potential for us, and up for a long time, it was our favorite. Well, it was at the time, it was the only one.
Yeah, the only
But
Disney
it
Plus
would've-
But
Marvel show.
it would have been our favorite.
Watching all of them, it would have been by far our favorite.
Yeah.
And for me, it's still my favorite. It's just I can't recommend it as much as I was before the last episode.
Yeah, the last episode just kind of ruins a lot, and not because of the way some people complain about it. It's like, oh, Quicksilver wasn't the Fox.
Yeah.
Which
Quicksilver.
it
So
added
the
on to
finale was terrible.
It added on to the disappointment.
Yeah.
But I could have, I could have accepted it. But when you've done everything else horribly wrong, and then you throw that in there, it's like it's just a slap in the face.
Yeah, because like Agatha Harkness was like turned out to be like the villain of the show, and she was just like a really bland villain.
And I kind of figured she was gonna be the villain.
Yeah.
But like when we're watching, what was it, Nando v Movies? He did a really cool video on how she shouldn't have been a villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
She should have been more of a, like
in the description for that too.
Yeah.
She should have been like more of like a mentor, but you didn't really know her intentions.
Yeah, because the real villain of the show, of which what they should have done, they're kind of building up. Well, I mean, the rest of the show was the villain was her grief, Wanda's grief, and they should have kept that for the finale.
It was like because they had done it so well up to that point, her grief and showing, but it was like they were afraid for the audience to see Wanda as the villain.
Yeah.
But if you really look at it, she mind controlled all these people.
And they did a quick scene of it to kind of maybe like make you think that they did a quick scene whenever all the people are like gathering around her and you know, stuff like that. But like at the end of the show, the end of the episode, it's really irritating because it's like a scene where there's like a scene. I don't know what happened. There's like a scene there.
Yeah.
When she's talking to
Monica
Rambeau, and she's like, what'd she say?
Monica says they'll never know what you gave up.
Yeah.
And then what'd she say after that?
She said
They won't change the way they look at me.
Yeah. It's like, so are you saying that you didn't do anything wrong?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
like you had to sacrifice your fake family that you created and enslaved the whole town for. You had to give that up, so they should forgive you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and there was a lot of stuff I had wrong with it, and it's why it's not my favorite, and it's why it could have been, because even though it's for me, I'm not gonna say an ending is everything, but an ending is a good like 70% of the show,
right?
Like a good 70% of the show, like, you know, like how good that show is. All like that show can be great, but it all really comes down to that ending,
right?
On how good that ending is. And considering that the whole show built up to something that they were too scared to actually get into, that really took it down for me.
But I think that's the problem with all of these Disney Plus shows. They're really great, but they don't know how to end them.
Yeah, and
I don't know if it's because they need more episodes or they want to make it like a Marvel movie at the very end, but it just like they're dealing with real life issues, but they don't know how to end it because they want that big CGI fight, which I am okay with. I'm okay with those. But when you're doing such a great story, you need to justify those big CGI fights.
I would say it's much more evident in WandaVision because it's not like those other ones don't know how to end it. It's just that they don't have enough episodes.
Yeah.
That last episode is usually good. It just could be better if they had like one or two more episodes.
Yeah.
And honestly, WandaVision should have been an extra episode. But that last episode, honestly, the reason why it was...
The direction it went.
Yeah, the direction it went was what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
It should have been 2 episodes. That would have helped out a little bit, but it still wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I really do feel like which WandaVision, it's a different thing, but the rest of the Disney Plus shows like Falcon the Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye, I really feel like Disney needs to have more episodes for these shows, or at least have the episodes longer.
Yeah, it's like they didn't know if these were going to do well, so they like tested it, but they should just have confidence in it.
Yeah, and I do know a budget's another thing, but I mean, Disney's freaking rich. I feel like they can afford more episodes.
Yeah.
Because like, it really, a lot of the episodes really feel like just events happening. It doesn't feel like they can have time for things to like settle and breathe, like especially like emotional stuff, like dive into these characters. Because there isn't enough episodes for them to do it, so they have to keep the plot moving forward and more, so that you can't really dive into the characters as much as you should.
And then kind of moving on from, or unless there's anything else you wanted to say from WandaVision.
No, not really. But I just want to say that's all I was saying really is that I think the reason why I dislike the ending of WandaVision is a much different reason why I dislike. Well, I didn't dislike any of the other endings really, but it's a much different reason of why the quality could.
I will say another one I didn't really like was Hawkeye. I didn't like how they ended it. It was too rushed. Emotional moments like between Hawkeye and Yelena, it just wasn't as powerful as it could have been. Mm-hmm. Kingpin, I know that they didn't technically show him dying, but I didn't like that. The whole Maya and him thing was rushed.
Yeah, which I don't mind Kingpin. A lot of people complain about Kingpin and Hawkeye, but I don't have many complaints with him. My one complaint about him is, one, I feel like Kingpin wouldn't have gone himself to get what's her name, Eleanor?
Yeah.
And I really feel like they shouldn't have had him be in a fight with someone because it's a Hawkeye show, the season finale. So he was inevitably going to lose. Yeah. So and this is Kingpin's, I know they're probably going to have his backstory in Daredevil still be canon, possibly. But this is his introduction to the bigger MCU world. And I feel like it's you can't really have him lose a fight, even though they did make him a lot more durable than he was in the Netflix show, which is cool.
And then I didn't because Maya is I mean, and I know in the comics that's his adopted daughter, but this one it's her uncle. But I mean, that was her second father, and we didn't get that connection. Because I get that they were waiting as long as they could to reveal Kingpin, and that was awesome. I loved how they revealed him. Yeah. But you waited so long, so then we didn't get to see the connection between him and Maya. And the whole show building up was Maya realizing that Kingpin hired Ronan to kill, or not hired, but told Ronan where to find the tracksuit. Yeah. In turn, got her father killed. Mm-hmm. So, but because you waited so long to show Kingpin, and then you wanted to rush everything at the end, we didn't get that connection between Maya and Kingpin. Yeah. That was a hard thing to hear.
Yeah, but I will say, even then, the ending was rushed, but it wasn't necessarily bad. There was a lot of things that they should have done better, but it didn't ruin anything. Mm-hmm. For me, WandaVision ruined a lot of the show before it.
Right.
The ending of Hawkeye, it should have been maybe one extra episode, but it didn't ruin anything before it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
If that, yeah. So, because Hawkeye, honestly, I like that show a lot. Like I said, it really needed one or two more episodes to kind of do a lot of things. Because, like you said, these shows, the main problem with these shows is they don't let, have time to have people sit in their emotions.
Yeah. Right, and I really feel like longer episodes would really help because these episodes have to have a beginning, middle, and end. Yeah. So you have to have a beginning, middle, and then end. Yeah. So there's not enough time to do stuff because you have to keep the plot moving. So if the episodes were an hour long at least, I feel like that would solve a lot of it because you could have more episodes, but at the same time you'd still have the issue of you still have to have a beginning, middle, and end. So I feel like longer episodes would help a lot, and maybe another episode.
And it confused me because I like what they did with Yelena. Because after Black Widow, the end credit scene, I thought she was going to go after Hawkeye because she thought that he killed his sister, and that it would have been like what you said, why didn't she know? Yeah. That Hawkeye didn't kill her sister, but then it was revealed that she was snapped, and nobody really knows exactly how Black Widow died. Yeah. So I understood that part, but then it was kind of confusing that Eleanor hired her, but then it wasn't explained why Eleanor hired her. But then,
well, the way I kind of think about it in my head, they didn't explicitly say it, but I think that because she called someone at the end of episode 4, I can't remember, and I think she was calling Kingpin, and then Kingpin had Val hire Yelena. There's a lot of moving parts, but that's how I think about it in my head.
But see, I'm not saying you have to tell us. I'm not saying you had to explicitly tell us, but it was very confusing. Yeah, no, I because I love that Yelena was part of it. It needed to be brought up, and Hawkeye and Yelena needed to have that moment. But it was just kind of weird how she was brought in. I think it would have just been better if she always had this hatred for Hawkeye, and now she's going after Hawkeye to kill him because she thinks he killed her sister.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so I don't know if we're done talking about that because we do have two other ones to talk about, and I want to leave the worst for last. So we talk about Loki. I thought Loki was pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are some
By the way, his
holes,
statement,
but-
we're not like putting these in order. This is not our order.
Yeah, this is our old. It's just I just want to
Right.
leave that one for the last. But Loki, we should even talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
No, we can talk about Loki real quick. You already brought it up.
Loki was good. I liked it quite a bit.
I feel like that one also suffered because they didn't build what was so Loki and what was the girl's name?
Oh, Sylvie.
Yeah.
Their relationship
wasn't built up enough because you were having to introduce a lot of things and you only
Yeah.
had a limited amount of
I can
episodes.
understand
Exactly.
that. I can see that. But I do feel like what it actually built up to was done really well.
Yeah, the multiverse and all that. They did. It's really cool. They had a whole show to build up the multiverse.
Yeah.
and they haven't even fully introduced the multiverse.
Yeah,
yet.
exactly.
It's like little pieces here and there. It's really cool how they're doing it. I mean, not to bash on DC because I really like DC, but they're just like throwing it all into one movie. The Flash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, where like Marvel's in each kind of installment, we're kind of getting a little bit more about.
Yeah.
We're learning more about the
Yeah.
multiverse. It's not just randomly all shoved in one movie, and
Right.
we
Yeah,
have
where
to,
DC has like a movie a year, so they have to put everything in that movie.
Exactly.
I don't want to go on a whole tangent of DC.
Right. So Falcon the Winter Soldier.
So then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I feel like that one suffered because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And not just the filming and stuff, because there was a virus storyline.
Yeah, they
and
had to cut.
Yeah, and when the pandemic happened, they had to cut it.
Yeah, because it's too real, too close to reality.
And so you can really feel that there's something missing.
Yeah, with the villains, because I mean the villains weren't bad in my opinion, but I feel like they were missing, especially with how they turned out the ending. Like there wasn't enough to like for you to fully understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
You could. They still. I'm not saying they're bad villains. They're still good villains, but there was enough to like fully like drive their need for what they're doing.
Yeah, but I think that they handled a lot of tough subjects really well. It never felt forced. You know, you had the racism issue.
Yeah.
You had Bucky coming back and, you know, trying to step into like, I can't be the next Captain America. That's why it needs to be you. You have his mental issues, you know, coming into play.
And they really did make like Sam becoming Captain America feel extremely earned. Not that I feel like it wouldn't have felt earned without this, but like it's almost impossible for you not to say that he earned becoming Captain America. I mean, if you do, then like, okay, I can see why you're saying that.
Because I mean, a lot of people are saying that Bucky should have been. And in the comics, yes, that makes sense. But in this world that the MCU has created, it doesn't make sense for Bucky. Bucky was a terrorist for so long.
Yeah.
That's what
and
people
he still
thought.
has his own issues to work through.
Yeah.
And then he was snapped away. And so society still sees him as that terrorist, even though his name is cleared.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was for a while. It's just that he didn't kill T'Chaka and all that. But, you know, he still was a terrorist at one point.
Yeah.
So you can't just have him take up the Captain America mantle right after all of that.
Right.
Yeah. I like that show quite a bit. Like you said, there's just a few things here and there. I think the one thing I wish they would have put in there is like a line explaining like that the shield didn't represent America, it represented Chris Evans. You know? Steve Rogers. Real quick, I want to also bring up that the guy was a really good character.
John Walker?
John Walker was a really great character. I loved his character.
He was.
All you people who talk trash about him, shut up. I love his character.
It was just...
And I just love the whole tone of the show too, because
Yeah.
all the Captain America like movies and shows have had the perfect tone to where it's like not too much comedy and just the right amount of seriousness.
Yeah,
Because I was going to say, the reason why John Walker gets so much hate is because he killed that person. And I get it. That's very wrong. But again, Wanda enslaved a whole town. Okay? So, you know, the heroes aren't perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then also I'll bring up real quick. What if was probably the worst of these shows? There was
it's hard to say because like the
You
Doctor
had the
Strange
Doctor
episode is one of the
Strange.
best things that's been in the MCU.
that's the only thing I'm saying. But like as a whole, it's a bad show. But Doctor Strange was phenomenal. The Doctor Strange episode was phenomenal. The Hulk one was honestly one of the worst things that.
You mean Thor?
Sorry, the Thor one. The Thor one was probably the worst thing. One of the worst thing the MCU's ever done.
Right.
They didn't-
Yeah, like the What If has had the best things that the MCU has done, and then the worst things
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
the MCU has done.
It's like they didn't know the tone they wanted. And I thought, so the first, because Doctor Strange was the third or the fourth?
Fourth, I think.
Fourth. So the first three I could kind of excuse because I was like, they're trying to find their footing. They don't really know. And then when Doctor Strange, that episode happened, I was like, okay, they know what they're letting the audience know this is the type of show we're gonna do.
Yeah.
But then it went back to crappy, and I was like, I don't understand why you threw a Doctor Strange one that was so great in this show, but then it seems like the rest of the time you had no idea what kind of tone you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to say before we end this. I want to say one thing about WandaVision. I forgot to say earlier. What was the guy's name? The chief's name?
Hayward.
Hayward.
Oh, Hayward.
Yeah. One thing that was irritating about the show is they try to make him out to be the bad guy of the show.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he never really did anything bad.
Yeah.
Until like at the very end, it was like, oh crap, we didn't make him actually bad, and so they made him like randomly try to shoot her kid. Yeah. And it was like out of nowhere. It's like, well, he has not shown to be like a bad guy at all. He's kind of like a dick, but he's not like a bad guy. Like,
right. He was just trying to save the town.
Yeah, he was doing everything he could to save the town.
Yeah.
And so I always thought that was a really irritating thing. Like I was hoping that last episode they do something.
Yeah.
You know. But even that was one problem I had throughout the entire show. Throughout the entire show.
Because he was kind of sketchy, but like how he lied about Wanda and how Vision. But I mean, he's not trying to like do it in a malicious way.
Yeah.
He's just trying to get people to be on his side.
And he's trying to save the town.
Yeah.
He never really did anything bad. All of a sudden, it's like the writers they're writing the last sentence like, did we do anything? Did we make him evil? No. Like, oh, make him shoot her kid.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so all of a sudden, but yeah.
Just really quick, my order for the What If episodes from best to worst. I have. Well, I'll do worst from best. Worst, I have this episode 7, the Thor episode 8, number 1, or episode 8, number 8, episode 1, the Captain Carter episode, number 7, episode 5, the zombie episode, number 6, episode 6, the Killmonger episode, number 5, episode 2, the T'Challa / Star-Lord episode, number 4, episode 3, when the Avengers die. Number 3, episode 9, the finale. Number 2, the episode 8, the Ultron episode. And then number 1, obviously, episode 4, the Doctor Strange episode.
Which we kind of agreed on it pretty much. I like the zombie episode more
we
than
have
y'all
a few
did.
differences in our
but we
list,
kind of all agree. Like I said, I like the zombie one more than y'all did. I do feel like the tone wasn't right, especially when Wanda was revealed that she's a zombie. That was kind of weird.
Well, when some characters die,
I know that you like the Captain Carter one more than me and Zach
did. Well, the Captain Carter one, I think people's issue with it, which is well founded, that it was just a redo of Captain America. But the reason why I couldn't put it way down below is because it wasn't bad. It was just a redo. It wasn't like great, but it was just there. Yeah. It was like one of the episodes that was literally just there.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't really say. I couldn't talk too negatively about it, but I couldn't really say a lot of good stuff about it. The zombie one, I could say a lot of bad things about it.
Yeah, which my opinion on the zombie one is, I thought it was good. It could have been good, just the tone was completely terrible. Like they made way too many jokes. It was way too jokey. Like characters would die, like characters that they know and have been in the movies and like they're friends with. They would die and they would make jokes about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this feels wrong again, completely.
Like we were talking about, they didn't understand tone. They didn't know what they didn't know if they wanted to be serious. I don't know if it was because they made it as a cartoon. They wanted to market it more for kids. Yeah. But then you have these serious terms. But then you had Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They did mention Uncle Ben in the zombie episode, which is funny.
Yeah. And then did you put number 1 the Thor episode?
yeah, number 1 Thor episode.
I think another issue for me was that they didn't get all the actors back. Oh, yeah. And I feel like it should have been easy because it's just voice acting. Yeah. Like you can do it at home.
It's funny just because that Ross Marquand is apparently their go-to guy when they need to replace someone. Yeah. Like he played Red Skull when Hugo Weaving didn't come back for Infinity War, and now he played Ultron in this. Yeah.
And
James Spader.
That was the biggest thing. Like I could have overlooked Robert Downey Jr. even though I didn't feel like the voice actor was very good. The one that replaced Chris Evans, was kind of okay. Like I couldn't really tell, but the reason I love Ultron is because of James Spader's voice. Yeah. James Spader just has this kind of voice that's like kind of creepy. And in this one, since we brought Ultron back, we needed that creepiness.
Yeah.
We needed that.
Especially since how powerful he got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And James Spader would have been perfect.
Yeah,
and I
no,
feel like...
They really did take away a lot from the episode, which is weird to say, but it really did.
Yeah, because Ross McQuan tries his best, but it's not that creepiness that...
Yeah, it's honestly almost like they didn't give him because he's honestly one of the best impressionists that I've ever like heard of. Mm-hmm. But like he had kind of like the cadence, but he didn't have I don't know the word for it.
I get what you're saying.
Like the tone. He had the cadence, but not like the creepy tone, the harsh tone.
He even slightly had the voice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, just the tone of the voice or something that he wasn't able to get in there. Like I said, they promoted it on to give him enough time or something.
Exactly.
Because I do think he could have gotten it if he would have worked on it.
Mm-hmm. Which also a side note, we've met him before, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and we have a video of him doing different impressions, which is cool. Mm-hmm. It's funny because y'all are dressed up as horror characters, so y'all have like the black
Marquez
eyeshadow.
was Jason, and I was Michael Myers. Yeah, so we look like emo people.
Yeah, because y'all have the black eyeshadow.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody knows, but when we cosplay, we try to go as all out as we can.
Yeah.
So
within reason.
Yeah.
Like spend like a lot of money on stuff.
Yeah, but like we try with the things that we're given. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of your clothes came from like Walmart and stuff, and you tried for your Jason costume and the mask because it was like kind of a last minute thing.
And put rub dirt in them.
Yeah, so we try hard, but but anyways, the Thor episode. I don't know what they were doing with that. I don't know, because was it Mr. Sunday movies that we watched and they put it in like the middle of the list?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I don't know how you can justify that episode at all.
Yeah.
It was so stupid, especially because the whole thing, because what was the scenario for Thor is
is if he was an only child.
Yeah. So like that could have been an interesting concept because the whole thing between Thor and Loki is that they're brothers, and that's why they always make up at the end. It's because they're brothers.
Yeah, it's the only thing that kind of like holding back from them killing each other.
So when you remove that element, like that would have been a cool thing to see that rivalry. Yeah. But then you did nothing with it.
Yeah, you just made them even better friends than they were before they were brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was one with Chadwick Boseman. I just want to talk about that one real quick because it brings up something like it made me. There's one part that I hated about it. I felt like it was fine. The episode was fine. It was definitely Chadwick Boseman. I wish he would have gotten a better last thing. But one thing that irritated me about it was that Thanos was good.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to where... Because that one they made to where since like T'Challa became Star-Lord, he was everything was like perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And so he made to where he's like, Thanos, he's like, he taught me that I can just redistribute resources and all this stuff, you know? And it's one of the complaints that people have been bringing up about Thanos this whole time.
Yeah.
And they're saying, why didn't he just give unlimited resources, redistribute resources? Why don't they just do that instead of doing this? And my argument was always, well, he could have, sure, but I think people realize at Thanos' core, he sees himself as a god.
Yeah, he's a really big narcissist.
Yeah, he's an extreme narcissist. And so he's not going to do something like that. He wants to do something that's going to make him a god.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him such a good character, is that he's not a good guy, even though he says that his reasonings are good.
And he thinks he's a good guy, but at the end of the day, he really isn't. Like, he's not really a good guy.
Because if you think about it, when he kills Loki, it's because Loki tells him, you'll never be a god.
Right.
And that's when he snaps his neck.
Yeah.
Because that's what he wants to be, is a god.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was just irritating they did that, because it's like, why did you do that? I'm like, that was the complaint that I was trying to like defend this whole time. Yeah. And you did that. I'm like, sure, it's another universe, but still, the way the universes work isn't just like things are different. Yeah. It's one thing changes something.
Yeah, and that's not to go on too big of a tangent, but that's another reason why his appearance in Endgame wasn't bad. The people say that they turn him to a generic villain and all that. Yeah. But no, that's just who he truly is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's him at his core.
Yeah, he realized the Avengers it challenged his ego.
Yeah.
You know? And
like he succeeded in his mission, but they weren't grateful. He didn't get to sit over a grateful universe.
Yeah.
He even said, when I had this plan, I always assumed that y'all would, it's something like, I assumed y'all would be grateful because they didn't suffer when they died.
Yeah. So he's not a good guy, and that's honestly one of the main things that made me mad about the T'Challa being Star-Lord episode is they did that, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to say now?
Yeah.
Right.
You just threw away the biggest defense for that character.
And it was kind of strange that Yondu picked up Star-Lord or T'Challa because it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like Yondu ran into T'Challa and that's why. Like, because Yondu still had the mission that Ego sent him to find Peter Quill. So it was like, why would Yondu just randomly pick up T'Challa and then abandon that?
Yeah. True.
I can't remember that episode.
Yeah, I do think they explained it a little bit because I think the guy, James Gunn's brother's character, I think he mixed up who he was supposed to pick up.
Oh, okay.
I think if I remember, I haven't seen the episode.
It's just weird that Yondu wouldn't then try to go fix it, and then he would just accept T'Challa,
right? Because
the whole relationship between him and Peter Quill was because he was delivering him back to Ego, and in that time they formed a bond,
right?
So why would he just decide, like, he didn't become a father figure, like that,
right?
Like, why would he keep T'Challa? That's just weird.
Yeah, and then the Killmonger episode I thought was pretty good, except for that it didn't have an ending, like, at all.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, at first I was like, okay, maybe they'll continue on in the second season of What If they have a second season. But then the final 2 episodes, they brought him in and there's no way that they can finish that storyline now.
Yeah.
Because like he was in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
So like
they trapped.
It's kind of hard to like rank that within the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And they kind of and I get that Tony Stark was kind of like that idiot type of, but I feel like Tony Stark wouldn't have been that stupid. He is still one of the smartest guys in this universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Besides, Bruce Banner and stuff, but I feel like he wouldn't have fallen for it that easily.
He's like silly and goofy, but he's really just like he's like a genius still.
Yeah,
he's still a genius, So,
yeah,
but I don't know.
Yeah, but just a lot of those episodes they just existed. Like, it's kind of fun.
Except for the Doctor Strange.
Yeah, except for the Doctor Strange episode.
That's my favorite thing ever. I can still watch that and still get emotional.
The Doctor Strange episode.
If you see
Jake has even saying we're taking too long.
If you watch it in the YouTube, you might see Jake jumping up and down. That's what he does when he gets excited.
Thankfully, it might just be like just a few minutes over, maybe like 10 minutes over. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the clock. I think we're at like.
It's okay. It's our first episode back.
Yeah.
We had a lot to talk about.
Right.
And then hopefully we'll be back next week. That'd be priority, and hopefully it might be a little earlier because we're trying to figure out when to film these, and I'm thinking maybe a day earlier might be best. But we'll go. Hopefully we'll be back next week. Like I said, if you're interested, you can go over to Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, something like that. You can go to those if you. Don't have time to watch, you can listen on those. We have our 2 Awesome Men channel that we've randomly been jumping up in subscribers on that.
Which, thank you, but
we made a video after Spider-Man Far From Home came out defending the MCU Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and I guess that's been like kind of popping up in a few people's recommended because No Way Home came out.
Yeah.
And so because the views have been going up on that video since No Way Home came out.
That's true.
We're probably gaining some from there.
If you see the comments, you're going to see a lot of hate for that.
We got a lot of hate on
well,
that.
the recent ones, there's a lot of top comments where people are agreeing with us. But then if you look at
I think it's because they're agreeing because now they've seen No Way Home. And so they have the trilogy. Before because it's Zach in the video and it's why he believes that the MCU Spider-Man works. That's even though it's not comic book accurate, it still works.
Yeah, and I could see where they're not exactly where they're going, but I could see them the transitions that they're going, the character development that they're going through.
He kind of explained that in the second one. You can see it's kind of Tom Holland coming out of that shadow of Iron Man.
Exactly.
And so you saw in No Way Home, the Spider-Man trilogy, it was just like a really slow progression of the character of Peter Parker, as opposed to him just snap and being like self-sufficient on his own.
Exactly.
Which is a different take on it. Which it's a different universe and everything else. It'd be weird if you had a movie where all 3 Spider-Man went through the exact same things.
Yeah.
So.
So, but a lot of that hate came from before No Way Home, and so people, I guess, couldn't see that vision, and so there was a lot of hate. But then I feel like now they'll love because they've seen that progression.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. But anyways, guys, y'all can hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll be here next week. You can jump on over and do that. But other than that, I not have much to say.
I not have.
I not have much to say. I don't have much to say, but yeah, but we will see. We will not see you. You will see us next week.
Maybe.
Hopefully.